We are so back. South Carolina lands a big four-star recruit, offensive tackle. Kamari Blair commits to South Carolina Wednesday night. We talk about the 11th commitment in this class, and is he the first domino that's going to fall in what could be a very, very big week for South Carolina recruiting? Locked on Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler. Hope you're having a great day, and thank you to everyone making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we're a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, and now is as good a time as ever to sign up if you are not a member already. New customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com or download the app today. All right, let's get into it. Big news that just happened within the last hour as we're recording this Wednesday night. Kamari Blair, four-star tackle out of Tennessee, commits to South Carolina. The other two teams that were closest in contention, Ole Miss and Tennessee. The eighth ranked prospect in the state of Tennessee. And I looked at this right before his announcement. It wasn't like an overwhelming favorite, but he was like around 26% and 23% projected or predicted in the crystal ball thing to go to either Ole Miss or Tennessee. South Carolina has taken its lumps in recruiting over the past couple of weeks. We did a show on it earlier this week, and it's been frustrating. It's been frustrating while watching all the other teams in your conference around you seemingly get richer and richer. But the thing that this staff does over and over and over again, and I don't know why we forget about it or remind ourselves of it when we get frustrated. The one thing they do and never stop doing is working. That's it. I mean, the way that this staff has gone about going after certain players, setting the parameters of what they want to do, and then also understanding like this is exactly who we are, this is exactly what we can have, and if it fits, it fits. If not, we are not going to maneuver backwards. That is a. I'm going to preface this by saying later on in the show, I talked to a very close inside source and a big source at Texas A&M today at length, specifically about the Somourian Walker commitment from the other day and what they offered him and just some of the rumors that we heard and how much truth was in them or not. But it all reiterated a lot that and reaffirmed that South Carolina is so comfortable in its own skin right now. Shane Beamer, this staff, so comfortable in its own skin right now. It does not feel like they're going out on the road and pitching a pipe dream or trying to sell somebody on something that is like a used car salesman or something that is they have to feel like they would even need to make a sales pitch for. It feels like they're going out and saying, listen, this is what we are. This is who we are. Like, please come for a visit. You will love it. Everyone that comes here does. There's a reason why, 12 of like the 20 plus commitments that were, or visits from June, have been in this class. Like over 50% of your June visits over the last couple of years have ended up committing in your class. So you get them on campus, you get the official visit, and they end up finding out what you knew all along and what everyone's found out when they come on this campus is, man, it is a little bit different, but what they're building in the culture, there's so much substance to that. There's so much substance and not just surface level excitement and glitz and glam and really money, right? So I thought it was an incredible job here. Again, getting back up the mat. Maybe that's part of me also being a little bit over dramatic about how frustrated some of the misses were and how it felt like the kicks kept coming. But Kamari Blair is a really good prospect. And one of the reasons I really like this pick or this commit the most is the position. I don't know if it's necessarily a need, like an immediate need. Like, you should most likely have both of your left and right tackle back next season. That being said, games are won in the trenches. We all know, like, the old cliches. But, like, this has never been a position that Carolina has really, thrived at in recruiting. And there's a stat I bring up a lot. I bring this up a lot when Spencer Rattler first got here. I want to say it again to put it in perspective. When Spencer Rattler first got here in 2022, you look at the roster and they had 17 total offensive linemen. 2 were 4 stars or higher. Now I am fully aware that star rankings don't mean everything, but when you look at the rest of the offensive lines around the SEC and you look at teams like Georgia and Bama or Ohio State, like, it is littered with 4 stars and 5 stars across that offensive line. Like, more often than not, teams like that, especially Georgia and Bama, you're not seeing multiple 3-star. You're not seeing it feels like it's very uncommon to see a 3-star consistently starting in those types of lineups. Now, like, regardless of what you believe about the star rankings, all that kind of stuff, you've shown significant improvement each year since then, right? The following year, you had 2 out of 17, but then the following year after that, you had 4 that were either, and you had your first 5-star, Josiah Thompson, that is suiting up and playing left tackle for you right now. These aren't numbers that are, like, insane by any means, but it's still very, very different, especially when you're able to accompany it with, like, the consistent portal grabs that they've gotten at this position, especially in the interior. So you have elevated, again, the floor of this team, the floor for talent, continues to go up and up and up, right? And when that happens, the ceiling will also go up and up and up. I don't know when Kamari Blair is going to see the field. I don't know if he's going to be a day one starter. I don't know if he's going to stay at tackle or any of that kind of stuff. 6'6", 280, that is a get-off-the-bus type of athlete. That is, he'll have to put on some weight. And you've seen the size of this offensive line. We talk about different positions like receiver and cornerback, and it feels very, very real that this staff has a couple of positions where they want specific standards, whether it be height and weight. And Kamari Blair, 6'6", 280 right now, as a very fast rising prospect and going to be a senior in high school, that is a body that can easily put on upwards of 30 to 50 pounds. Not all muscle, obviously, but, like, there's a lot of room for growth there. A lot of room for growth. Now, the thing I just brought up before that, I love the fact that you have now figured out a way to, once again, like, figure out how to stop this slide and start creating your own momentum. And you've also done a good job of, it felt like a real, like, punch in the gut when you missed out on Somourian Watkins because you were favored to get him. This feels like a little bit of a surprise. Like, I mean, maybe it shouldn't be, but it feels like a little bit of a surprise based off of what we were hearing, and also based off the fact that just the way things had gone over the past couple of weeks in recruiting and how little success they've had. But he comes into the fold. You now have 3 offensive linemen in this class alone, and 2 or 4 stars or higher. You're still very much in play for Darius Gray, the 5-star interior offensive lineman. So you are putting together what could essentially be one of the best offensive line classes you've had in at least under Shane Beamer. And getting those types of players at that position, being able to start adding depth and adding quality players, but also the quality size. I mean, 6'6", 280. So we love that. We love that. And again, I also love the fact that he probably isn't going to start right away. But like think about, like, just the towers you're going to have on both sides at tackle with Thompson and Henry, or even if Kamari Blair doesn't start, like, playing right away. Very excited. This feels like the start of something that is going to be a little mini stretch or streak that South Carolina is going to go on. And getting it kicked off after a week where you have become in the limelight a little bit more, being around media days in Atlanta all week. I heard it said twice today, like verbatim, which was I was asking questions to, other guys in the media and putting together some social content, and part of it was who's the breakout player for 2024, and who is, the way I phrased it, this year's South Carolina and this year's surprise team. What Josh Pate, what J.D. Pickell, and who was the last one? I think it was Mike Gittens from the War Report. What they all three said, it was very it got me very excited for this year, and it feels like you have a little bit of a breakthrough and like a thank you, I told you so moment. We will discuss exactly what they said when we come back. Before we do, I do want to give a quick shout out to our friends at FanDuel. Listen, guys, I know it's the kind of like the doldrums of summer. There's not a ton going on sports wise right now. You had the home run derby and then the All-Star game, and then I guess followed by a home run derby to win that. Anyway, not a ton going on sports wise, but there will be in under 50 days when college football starts, and now is as good a time as ever to get started with our friends at FanDuel. And even though, like I said, there's not as much action, there's no better way to get in on the action than with our friends at FanDuel. Listen, if you're already going to follow the games, why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. And I tell you what, the best part about what FanDuel offers is, one, easy payouts, easy sign-up. It's all at your fingertips. But on top of that, it is also the most up-to-date live betting action you can imagine. You can bet on the next point in tennis if you want. You can bet inning to inning in baseball. You can also just get updates, so if you can see trends and where you want to bet later in the day, you can do all that at FanDuel. So if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, so went over the Kamari Blair stuff. Real quick, just from a number standpoint, I want to run through these. So he is a 4-star recruit. He's a consensus 4-star recruit on Rivals and ESPN. Top 300 player in both. 247 has him as a 3-star, but he is a consensus 4-star in the On3 and now Rivals industry rankings. Listen, told you where else he was looking, and offers from all over the country, not just from around the Southeast. Ole Miss, Tennessee, Wisconsin, Kentucky, Cincy, Florida State, North Carolina, Indiana. Let's see here, West Virginia, and oh man, two full pages. So roughly around over 25. Oh, and Alabama and Oklahoma as well. So you were able to get him over your former divisional rival, Tennessee. And also, it always feels good to shove Lane Kiffin in a recruiting locker. And that's going to happen a lot, by the way. Because it is very clear, and he brought this up at Media Days, they are not going to put as much emphasis on high school recruiting. And there's just a very real chance that you're going to be able to start winning these battles more and more, because that's what this program is doing while still being able to go to the portal. But I love it. I love what they've been able to do. I love the commitment that Beamer, Darren Usher, and everyone else on that staff have had to not just getting high school recruits right away and big stars, but really, really trying to like plant seeds for the future and being so dialed into everyone in the state and then the upcoming classes as well. And that pays off, especially when you see like the rankings come out, the first rankings come out for 2025 or 2027 for next year's class, and the number 5 overall player in the country is in your backyard in South Carolina as a 5-star cornerback. Okay, so like I said, that he's the 11th commit, the 8th 4-star. They have not updated the actual team rankings yet, I don't believe, but you will move up, and you will once again, the blue chip ratio, 8 out of 11, I believe, is 273, is 72.7%. So 73% blue chip ratio, which is even higher than before, and again, the highest you've had in over a decade. Now, I'm going to look at the team rankings real quick, and then I want to get into some really, like, the only way I know to describe it is, like, if you watch The Office, that really memorable, like, meme or gif of Michael Scott going, "Thank you," or if you just see it on, the gif in general. That is like the eureka feeling that I had today when I talked to about 10 to 15 members of the national media and did a bunch of like video stuff with them and asking about the SEC specifically, teams that are going to surprise, disappoint, and everything in between. And multiple people, not just one at all, multiple people had the same exact thing to say about South Carolina. And it felt so reassuring. And it was it was a good moment. And the people that were saying it too just so happen to be some of the most respected people in the industry. So, real quick though, you look at the rankings from the updated On3/Rivals rankings. South Carolina now jumps back up 10 spots from 32 to 22. You now have oh my gosh, the average went up again. You did this also while your average NIL has dropped to 67K. So look at it's just, being great with our money. And you move up, like I said, 10 total spots, and you move ahead of other teams in the SEC, like Arkansas. And you also move ahead of teams like Texas Tech, who, as you might have seen, has spent millions of dollars on this year's class and in the future. Right behind Ole Miss, which should not last very long since you only have 11 commitments. And let's go back to that favorite number that I keep bringing up. The average rating for each player in this class. The other day they stood at 10th overall in the country. It is now, you moved up again. You're right behind Texas now. 1, 2, 3, 4. At 9th in the country. So all really good things. And listen, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I don't want to jinx it, because we've been disappointed the past couple of weeks. This could be a really big week. This could be a really, really big week. And if you've been keeping up with any of the recruiting at all, there's Landon Duckworth is committing on the 19th. That is, what's today's date? The 16th, so this Saturday. The other one is, it was supposed to be in August, and he announced very, very recently that he was going to move that up until tomorrow at 2 p.m. And that is when, let me bring it up here. Somourian Wingo, 4-star receiver out of Florida, set to commit between South Carolina, Florida, and Miami. That will be on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Doesn't say, he's got 34 total offers. It does not say any crystal ball predictions yet, but would be a very, very big pickup. And he's raved about South Carolina ever since he went on his visit. So would be great if you land all three. It would be great if you land 2 as well, especially 2 more 4-stars to bolster this class. Let's get into, real quick, just more stuff with media days. And it's been a whirlwind. Just obviously it's a very busy week. It's so much going on. I'm wearing the shirt for my main job. And it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. But today, I made it a point to go around and I putting together a couple of videos and stuff like that for the season with predictions and all the national pundits and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sitting there with Peter Burns. I'm sitting there with Josh Pate, and separately, by the way. And I said, 5 standard questions, and it was like, who's the breakout player? Who wins the SEC? Who's the most disappointing team? Who is this year's South Carolina that has a breakout season? And what's your hottest take? Who is this year's South Carolina was answered with the following quote verbatim, twice. This year's South Carolina is South Carolina because for whatever reason, everyone thinks they're just going to go right back into 5-win South Carolina, 7-win South Carolina. And both Peter Burns and also Josh Pate feel like that might be a little bit misguided for most people. And the fact that this schedule compared to like other teams that are getting propped up like Florida a little bit more, it's still much easier than that schedule. And one of them went in a little bit more in depth when we were talking about this because I did a deep dive on this earlier about Kalen DeBoer and his losses. And he said, I brought up when he was at the podium, I asked him one of the questions. I said, your record against top 25 teams is 15-3. It's the best record in the country. However, that means you've had 13 losses, and 10 of those are to unranked teams. You've also been favored in 10 of those 13 losses. So when I said that, a couple people, their eyes perked up or ears perked up and went and looked at some of the numbers and all that kind of stuff because it's staggering to be that hot and cold, right? But one of the people brought it back up to me and said, everyone that's looking at the Bama season or talking about game by game and thinking that this South Carolina team or this South Carolina game is a trap game or a potential upset, that might be the worst or the most casual take you could have this offseason. And I was very confused. But the point he was trying to make was, we've seen time and time again teams like Bama specifically in this instance in Kalen DeBoer where you're up for the Georgia game and then you fall off a cliff against Vanderbilt the following week. South Carolina is not the Vanderbilt in this scenario. They are not the Oklahoma team that beat Bama, when they were a 24-point underdog. They are not that team in this scenario. This South Carolina team in 2025 is not even anywhere close to being the 2022 South Carolina team, which was, pretty good quarterback, pretty good team, some stars there, but no one expects you to beat Clemson, and no one expects you to beat Tennessee. You're not hiding anymore, right? Like, everyone knows that you're there, and everyone sees that on the schedule. And these games, like specifically with Kalen DeBoer, and talking about making sure like the teams are up and focused, and it's a more intense week and like better week of practice, because you're not like, we got Kentucky on the road, we got Vanderbilt like a couple years ago, like on the road, about how you just go in there and expect to walk on the field and get a win no matter how you play. South Carolina is not viewed like that anymore, and especially after last season. You are going to get everyone's best effort, and especially everyone's best effort that is also a contender just like you or at the tiers above you. It's very easy to overlook teams on a schedule when you have a roster full of 18 to 22-year-old kids. I mean, like, there's so much going on. So if you have Georgia one week in prime time, and the next week you got an 11 a.m. kick against Arkansas, it's human nature to get up a little bit more for one of those games. Regardless of that, South Carolina is not going to be a team that someone overlooks this year, because they can't afford to. And everyone now seems to be, from like a program standpoint, the media might not really realize this completely yet, like around the national media. Fans that are either rival fans or just, casuals, they might not get it yet. But coaches, players, and other people, part of the programs around the Southeastern Conference that are going to actually play South Carolina, they are all on high alert. Like, they all are not going to miss that on the schedule. Like, that is one that is circled, not ignored. And that says a lot about the program. And the other part too is, it's funny because a lot of times with media days, and we'll close with this, a lot of times with media days, one of the things that happens is there's so many things that are happening, there's so many quotes, and there's so many big teams and stuff like that are there. Sometimes you'll have like a viral moment or whatever, but it's very much what happened today is forgotten by tomorrow. And I was wondering how that would play out specifically to South Carolina, because Beamer was fantastic on Monday, right? Lenore Sellers was incredible on Monday. Like, DQ Smith and the confidence that he spoke with, right? Like, everyone that came and represented the University of South Carolina did a phenomenal job. And that day, you started to hear people talk about South Carolina in terms of like their projections and all that kind of stuff a little bit differently than both that they had been talking about them, and a little bit differently than you've heard all off season from everyone, right? It doesn't feel like it's just like this novelty anymore. And as the week has gone on, the more conversations I've had about, hey, like, give me your top 5 teams, like, give me power rankings, give me this. South Carolina has continued to be more involved and move up and be just talked about way more consistently, and talked about in a positive way more consistently as the week's gone on. And that may sound really stupid, because I know some people think that media days is a waste of time, all that kind of stuff. But at the very least, it's completely different than what we're used to. All right. So I am going to go rest my voice. That is all for today's episode. We'll be back tomorrow for another episode and talking a little bit, hopefully with some good news from Somourian Wingo, and some more stuff, including an interview from someone at Media Days that you're not going to want to miss. I'll tell you that. Until then, you guys have a great rest of your evening, and go Cox.